Awesome. My name's Christian Smith, and I'm excited to tell you a little bit about some of the steps that we've taken to raise about $2 million for a company that I founded called TrackR. So I'm Christian Johan, and I live in Santa Barbara, California. I was a mechanical engineer at UC Santa Barbara before founding TrackR, and I love sailing and surfing. And if you see that green kite right there, that's my business partner. We happen to run into each other on the water all the time. It's pretty great pace of life. When you work, 10 to 12 hours a day, being able to go jump in the ocean for a little bit is kind of how I love to take my breaks. So my goal really today is to kind of empower the ecosystem of other people who are doing crowdfunding projects and really break down some of the tactical and the strategic moves that we've made to raise over $2 million in crowdfunding for TrackR. So a little bit more about TrackR. We started the company in 2009 after my business partner and I went on a surf trip just like this one, and we realized that he parked his car below the high tide line, and we parked on the beach. And so this was almost the fate of his car, should there not have been two people with metal detectors walking down the beach that were very gracious and helped us recover the keys that somehow fell into the sand when someone pulled a towel out. So when that almost tragic event happened, we realized that we're memorizing where all of our items are. And we don't memorize things anymore. Like, we're a society that just has the internet at our fingertips. So we created TrackR to move that database of items from our heads onto a phone. So we've shipped about 1.5 million of these devices around the world, and we have recently just started working with the Foundry Group and their VC fund run by Brad Feld in Boulder, Colorado, and he did Fitbit and MakerBot and a few other companies. So we used crowdfunding to gain the market traction, to get some of the world's best hardware investors involved. And so as a word of warning, I want to say I'm going to give you these tools and break down what we did, but I want you to be very careful with them because we're creating a legacy. We're creating our personal and the legacy for our progeny. So let's not use these tools, tips, tricks to deceive or swindle. Let's make sure that we're honest and straightforward and we deliver for the people who back us. And if we can't, then let's at least be courageous and communicate where and when things are going wrong. So the first step, I would say, is to make sure that there is a lot of preparation. I love this pastor quote that luck favors the prepared. And I think there are three key things with if you're crowdfunding a product or something that you'll be delivering, to make sure that you have a proof of concept that's demonstrable. So when people see your campaign, they can very easily identify that what you're doing is going to be something that it can be done. And if you don't have this, well, it's better to take the time, work at night and make sure that this concept is deliverable. You need to prepare the team. So there will be different functions and roles for successfully communicating with your customers, distilling those requirements down into like an engineering specification and then manufacturing them. So make sure that everyone that you're getting involved has the skills and resources necessary to fulfill your customers' needs. And also make sure that you plan, have lots of time for a crowdfunding campaign. It's something that, if done right, will have a massive effect. But one of the biggest mistakes that I see, when people ask me, "Oh, I'm launching a crowdfunding campaign. Can I get your advice?" And they don't take the time to get the campaign right. They try to launch too early, and they don't, have, they don't have the resources or, all the things that they need lined up. So don't jump the gun. The second is price to win. So make sure that the people who are helping get involved early and fund your project are people that are going to get some reward, right? There's not only the emotional benefit that Jeff was kind of talking about earlier, but there's also this monetary value. And so with TrackR Bravo, one thing that we did was provide packages, right? We surveyed our users. We found out that people didn't really want one or two, but they wanted 10 or 100. Like, they wanted as many as they could get. So we created a 10 pack that allowed people to, if they bought 5, we would give them 5 free. So make sure that there's clear and consistent communication with users on the value of participating early. The third thing I would say that's very important is to own your script. Be involved. I mean, you can see, Wes Anderson's one of my favorite directors. So, he's the guy in the headphones, and he's making sure that every detail of his script is executed correctly. It's easy to hire video producers to try and help tell your story, but as the person who is a founder or one of the people on that founding team, you have a story that no one else can tell, and it's very important that it's one of those founders owns the script and distills the empathy that they feel for the users in solving that problem. Build your audience. Before launching your campaign, it's very, very important to be able to collect a group of users and be communicating with them, having built a relationship that's just more than them signing up on an email list. I think that building an audience really means to survey your users and understand their voice. Jeff was talking about this earlier, right? Like, connecting with your users, understanding what they are interested in, why do they care about what you're doing. And you want to grow that user base to a crowd, right, that you can have a massive impact. So based on the goals of your campaign, understanding how big your audience needs to be prior to launching is very, very important. So know your audience. Own your press. PR firms are great for crowdfunding. However, as the person who's launching this campaign, you need to be the one to step in front of the train, and you need to get in front of the camera and talk to reporters. And it's very, very important that as the person who's very passionate, that you're the one that's conveying the story, as that gives kind of the authenticity that's necessary to connect with those users and then grow beyond that initial user base to new early adopters or people who are interested in what you're doing. Thou shalt be mobile. So imagine that there's a world and there are no desktops. And in this world of no desktops, your new users that you are trying to attract have to find out about your crowdfunding campaign. They have to connect with you. They have to communicate back and forth to you. They have to share with their friends for both that new user and your goal to be achieved, right? So make sure that you have a mobile strategy, right? That you understand without a desktop how that user is going to bond with your brand and then become an advocate. And so, along the lines of advocacy, right, you want to create a really easy way for those users to just be able to creatively express their excitement of your crowdfunding campaign or your product. Right? You don't want them to have a difficult time sharing, and you definitely don't want them to keep it to themselves. Right? Make sure that you can give them a really easy way to do creative things or to just spread the word. And then also make sure that you're incentivizing people to spread the word, whether that is through just letting them know that you can't reach the goal that you've set for the campaign without their help, or that there's a stretch goal, right? There's something else that you want to achieve if you get to a certain level of fundraising. Let them know what you're trying to do, and then empower people to help you in that journey. And I think it's so important to be reachable. A lot of campaigns that gain tons of traction, you'll see entire communities of users on Reddit or different social networks that band together because they're frustrated. And they're frustrated at crowdfunding campaigns. They call them frauds and liars. But really, the reason that happens is they're just not being communicated with. They don't understand what's going on. They haven't been educated of what changed in the campaign or things like that. So make sure to prioritize those customer communications because that is your brand touch point, right? And that's when your users need you most. Let's see. Oh, and I did. So we started thinking about, instead of thinking about customer support as a support function for your organization, we started thinking about customer support as an evangelism function for the organization. Customer support is a marketing function to let people know more about your organization and give them a really positive interaction with your brand. And then make sure to update lots. Some people are afraid of oversharing. And I think that it's not really something that you can do with a crowdfunding campaign. I think daily updates are a totally acceptable cadence of communication. If people are really interested in what you're doing and they care about it, then they'll listen. If they don't, well, then that's fine. But make sure that you're communicating to your the highest standards of users. I had a swim coach that said, I write my workouts for the best swimmers, not for the worst swimmers. And so make sure that you're writing all of your communications to all of your biggest fans. Another part about these updates is be proactive, right? Don't wait for users to complain or to express dissatisfaction. Make sure that you can be upfront with them about delays in schedule. And then with important things like ship date or these big questions that everyone's going to have and writing it right into your customer support, make sure that you're keeping in your email updates, you have a list of 3 or 4 different blog posts that you update continuously. So they can, from any email you send, they can see the latest ship date. They can see, the engineering update or, the production process updates, right? Whatever your users are really inquiring about, make sure that there's a simple way to access that. And not only will you cut down on the amount of time that you have to spend with each customer, but you'll also give them a really great experience that they can find the information that they need without having to write an email. And yeah, the last thing that we saw that was a really core thing to getting over, raising over $1 million in a crowdfunding campaign was to make sure you hit your goal early with your existing user base. Indiegogo published some very interesting data on conversion rates of crowdfunding campaigns versus funding level. And across looking at thousands of campaigns, they saw there's a huge inflection point when a campaign gets over 30% funded, right? At the point when, say, you're raising $30,000, as soon as you get more than $10,000 raised to your campaign, there's an inflection point where people who are not familiar with you or your brand are much more likely to contribute. And then there's another inflection point after the campaign is fully funded. So when we raised $1.7 million for TrackR Bravo, our goal was $20,000. And we knew we set the goal because we knew that we could hit it. And that allowed us to create a lot of positive momentum and a lot of growth because we hit our goal early. So make sure that you have a goal that's easily attainable with your existing user base, and that you understand what your whole user base will do.